Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Sam, thank you so much for joining us for the Mike Litton Experience. As we talked about, our passion is everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And I'm so incredibly excited to have you on as a friend, as a coach, as a mentor. I cannot thank you enough for everything you and your team have done for me and for my team. We're on our, like I shared with you, we're on our 10th episode. It's August of 2023, last day of August of 2023 that we're taping this. And, we've got 10 episodes in, we've 95 listens. I mean, we're off and going, and I'm super excited. We have 8 5-star ratings on iTunes. Where I got my first appointment last night from the podcast. So we're making huge progress. So being brand new and only 10 episodes in. So thank you. So if with your permission, let's start at the beginning of your life. Where were you born?
I was born in a small town in Western. First of all, by the way, that's awesome. Everything that you were just talking about, launching your show. Thanks for having me on your podcast, the Mike Litton Experience. I know this baby's going to blow up. I mean, you're just getting started. I get to be on one of the first episodes. Love it. Thank you. And I mean that, Mike.
Appreciate you being here, bud. I'm so honored.
Where was I born? I was born in a small town in Western PA, Bradford, PA. If you ever heard of St. Bonaventure University, it's in Olean, New York, which we're probably 15 minutes from there. So it's about 80 minutes south of Buffalo, New York, maybe an hour and a half east of Erie. So in that northwestern quadrant of Western PA. So I was born the youngest of 8 kids. My mom, Catherine Crowley, raised all 8 of us by herself. And my dad walked out when I was about 3 months old. So she worked in a factory as a nurse. Mm-hmm. And then as she got older, I was the youngest of 8. She had me at 41. So in her 50s, she started working at a nursing pavilion. But she was a registered nurse. To my knowledge, never made more than, this was killing it. She had never made more than 17 grand in a single year. Yeah. And somehow raised 8 of us by herself.
all those kids, right? So I'm just, full disclosure, I'm finishing up your book every day, a Saturday.
Yeah.
And you have moved me to tears several times. And, and one of them was when you were talking about your mom. Yeah. I'm very close with my mom, and it's really been an emotional experience to listen to your life. So go ahead.
It's wild. And you're right. I still have this check here. I don't know if you can see that my mom wrote me in 1997 on June 29th when I turned 29 years old. She used to give me $1 for every year I was born. And I carry it with me all the time. And then she died a week after she wrote this check. So I never cashed it. Yeah. And I hang on to it all the time just to remind me how short life is. And, to never take for granted. I know it's cliche, but really to not take for granted just a single day, because I didn't know she wasn't going to live past that week of, writing me the check. She wasn't in bad health or anything, really.
You got me in the feels, buddy.
Yeah.
You really did.
Yeah.
So Bradford, PA, you grew up in Bradford.
Yep.
Right. You went to high school in Bradford.
Went to high school there. Yep. And then, I went to Bradford High, go Owls, the Bradford Owls. And we, a lot of our family went in-state. So a few of us went to Penn State. One of my brothers joined the Air Force. My sister was a smart one. She went to Ivy League, University of Pennsylvania.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, she went on to Georgetown Law School and just had a dynamite corporate career as an attorney. So she was a smart one. Yeah. And then I went to Penn State Barron campus, which is in Erie, PA. Okay. I didn't even apply to college till March or April of my senior year. Like I had God love my mom. She did the best she could, but she wasn't there for that at that point in her life. I had nobody saying, hey, you need to apply here, apply there. So all my buddies were getting accepted at different colleges, Penn State, Pitt, some of them going out of state. I was like, geez, I better apply.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm graduating in 2 months,
Yeah.
So I got into the branch campus. I went to Erie, PA, and I had a really good freshman year. I probably enjoyed it too much. But it's funny. I was talking to my wife on the porch the other night. We have a 200-year-old farmhouse here outside Cincinnati. We just sit on the porch every night and just talk,
How cool is that?
And I was talking about this guy, Dr. John Gamble, who was my poli-sci professor in my freshman year. I thought he was the most interesting guy ever. And because when you took one of his tests, Mike, it wasn't yes or no. It was best answer, second best, worst, and second worst. And you had to justify why you wrote those down. And it really got me thinking of kind of coloring outside the lines. Like if you could justify the worst answer, he would give you credit for it, because you made a good argument for it. And I thought that
I love it.
Really
I love
cool.
That.
So I looked him up on the internet, and he's still kicking, man. He's still a professor at Penn State Bear. And I showed my wife, I go, this guy, he has no idea. Like he wouldn't remember me, obviously. It was 100 years ago and I was one student, but I remember him. Yeah. And that's really the impact you can make on somebody's life if you're just a little bit different. So my sophomore year, I had a tremendous amount of fun. And as a result, I was asked not to come back to the Pennsylvania State University. I stopped going to class. I was probably the best coordinator of campus parties, I would argue, in the history of that campus. Maybe there's been somebody afterwards, but I just dropped out of college after my 4th semester. And I moved to West Palm Beach, Florida with a buddy of mine because, again, everybody was going back for their junior year in the summer of 1988. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And my buddy's like, I'm going to West Palm. And this conversation in a bar at 2 a.m, by the way, which probably wasn't a good idea, but I'll go. And so I went off.
Place to get life advice, right?
Yeah. So I was 19, 20 years old, jumped in the car with my buddy a few weeks later, and we drove 23 hours straight down to West Palm. And, that was me exiting the state of Pennsylvania for the first time.
That's so cool. That is so cool. I love the, I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I love the story of you talking to and I think it was the Air Force, right? You were talking
the Army.
Army, right? Yeah. So you were talking to the guy from the Army, and he's like, so how much beer did you drink? And you're trying
he asked me how many
right.
beers.
Right. And you're like, I'm counting in kegs, man.
He asked me that question. So when I dropped out of college, the first thing I thought was join the Army, because that was the only other option I thought was available at the time. Like I was like so out of my, element. I had no idea what I was trying to plan my life at the age of 19 or 20. Yeah, so I joined the Army. And when I went in, I was going to military intelligence because that was one of the highest ranking units at the time without needing any kind of college degree. So I always love, like, even to this day, I love whodunits. And I know military intelligence, it's not just that, but I loved Columbo. I love all those detective and trying to figure out, this. So I'm like, military intelligence, I love that spy, type stuff. So I went in to interview for that. And the guy's like, I got down here, you went to college, but you dropped out. He goes, let me ask you a question. How many beers did you think you drank in a year? I'm like, and I started laughing because I thought, and this guy, first of all, this guy's about 6'10" in his Army gear. And I'm like this. He goes, let me just say something. First of all, if you're not truthful with any of these answers, not only will you not be in military intelligence, but we have the right to place you anywhere in the Army we want. That could be, wherever we deem you to go. So be honest. I'm like, well, hell, I got to be honest now. I go, well, here's the deal, man. We bought 5 cases a week, and there was 40 weeks in the year, maybe 2,000. Now, I didn't drink them all, but take 20% of it. I had 400 beers. I don't know. And he's like, oh my God. And you just see he's asking, who is this clown? And how did you even make it? How'd you even pass the ASVAB test?
How do you have a liver left, right?
Right. So he comes back. He's like, hey, we called your answers down to Quantico or wherever they called him in to do the military. He goes, wait, we can't offer you military intelligence, but we do have cargo specialist, food specialist. I go, like a cook and shipping containers. I go, I don't want that. He goes, well, you got to pick something. I go, well, in the contract, it says if I don't go in as this, I'm out. He goes, well, I said, I'm out. I looked because first of all, I've learned this about myself. I do not take orders well at all. And I think the more you know about yourself, the more inner peace you'll have. I just know that about myself. That's why I haven't had a job in 20 years, because I'm psychologically unemployable. I just know that, And if I would have gone into the Army, it would not have been great for the US of A to have this guy at the age of 19 representing our country. Okay. That I think we both dodged a bullet in that scenario. So that's the story about being in the Army for one day and then not.
So your long and illustrious career.
Yeah. My kids, I told them that story a while back, and they're like, because I've told them so many stories like that. I don't even know. Like, they're straight-laced. I have 4 daughters, straight-laced girls. They go to college, get their education, go into work for it. And they're looking at me like, my gosh, how are we offspring of you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very well.
That's awesome, man. So after the Army, where did you go?
I went to West Palm, and the first night we got there, we stayed at the Days Inn, and then we were looking the classified ads. We found a duplex. We really didn't have any money, so it was really in the ghetto of West Palm Beach, Florida. Not a very nice neighborhood. And at the time, it was really right near the runway of Palm Beach International. Like, planes would land almost on our home. So we got there. I had no furniture. I had a garbage bag with clothes. That was it. So this guy, I saw a mattress in the dump. He was throwing it out for garbage night, grabbed that, slept on that for the first 90 days. And I looked through the classified ads, and it said, become a stockbroker, make $100,000 a year. And so I called up, said, hey, I want to be a stockbroker. They're like, all right, well, you got to take the Series 7. So I'm like, great. And again, keep in mind, I got 20 college credits. Most of them are gym and health class. Okay. Right. So I've no business taking the Series 7. So I showed up at the company's name was J.W. Gant and Son. So I showed up the office, and this young buck, Joey Visconti. And at the same time, the movie Wall Street was number 1 at the box office. Charlie Sheen, Michael Douglas. I saw that movie, and I was enamored by that, You
wanted to be Gordon Gekko.
I want to be Buck Fox. I figured I'd work for Gordon Gekko. And I found this guy, Joe, he's 24-year-old version of Gordon Gekko, hair slicked back, drove a Porsche, lived in a $30,000 mansion on Palm Beach Boulevard. And he's like, well, you got to pay $500. I go, I don't have $500 to take the test. I go, why don't you pay it for me? And then when I pass, you can take it out of my commissions. He's like, okay, let me get back to you. Like, who the hell ever says that? So I called him every day for 2 weeks, and they wouldn't take my call. And finally he said, Sam, what do you want? I go, I want you to pay for my Series 7 test. And when I pass, take it out of my commissions. He goes, why do you think you'll pass? I go, because I got nothing else to do. I'm working in the Palm Beach Mall at a menswear store, and I got all the time in the world. So I would take the bus every morning. And when it reached the Palm Beach Mall, I would hit the ding button at the top. They'd let me out. I'd go into the mall, work in the menswear store, which meant basically standing there because I wasn't allowed to do anything. They wouldn't let me touch anything, ring anybody out, nothing like that. And so he said, okay. So he gave me a whole booklet and a bunch of cassette tapes, and I would eat grilled cheese sandwiches and rice every day because that's all I could afford. I bought a 5-pound bag of rice at Publix, and I bought those slices of cheese with bread, and I'd eat grilled cheese and white rice every day. I listened to the tapes and the books. Long story short, I passed the Series 7 exam. And
you were the most surprised of anybody, right?
Oh, I thought I got like a 10% because it was just ridiculous. First, I mean, you got to keep in mind, at the time, only 30% of people with an MBA, by the way, educated people, 30% of them at the time, at least the stat I saw, passed this exam. I got 30 credits less than that, So anyway, I passed. I became a stockbroker. I went in, worked for that office, paid Joe back his money out of my commissions. And then I started to miss the Northeast, though. I'd never been to Florida. I love the ocean. I'd never seen the ocean in my life till I was 20 years old when I moved there. So I loved all of that. There was a lot of partying going on, and I missed the change of seasons. So I miss fall, I miss spring. I didn't miss winter, but without the winter, you really can't appreciate the other season. So I transferred back to our Buffalo office, and then eventually left there. JW Gant, they had an office in Buffalo, just conveniently. And Buffalo was like the next. We always got the Buffalo news station, so it was like we all knew Buffalo. It was 80 miles to the north. You want to go to a Bills game, a Sabres game, go see Michael Jackson or Prince in concert or Huey Lewis in the news, you go to Buffalo.
Or go to the mall or whatever,
Yeah. If you want to go to the big city, you go to Buffalo. So I ended up moving up there. And one of my buddies, his sister lived there, and she had a roommate, and they were looking for another one. I said, hey, I'll help split the rent. It's $400 a month, $133 each. He goes, let me talk to my friend. And her name was Laura. So it was me, Laura, and Carla, strictly platonic, living. I was Jack Tripper in Three's Company.
That's it.
I was sleeping on the couch and didn't have a bed again. And I was like, I never had a bed, And then I started bartending the summer of 1990. And then the roommate, her name was Laura, she goes, you talk a lot. I go, yeah. And you got like this salesy vibe to you. I go, okay, where are we going with this? She goes, we're looking for, in our company, sales reps. And I think, you just would crush it, because I don't know if you believe anything you sell, but I always see you like convincing people, and you're always talking. And then when we walk in a room, you're everybody's buddy, like everybody just seems to open up to you. I'm like, okay, well, let's get an interview. So towards the fall of 1990, I interviewed there. That was selling Yellow Page advertising for the 9X Yellow Pages, New York, New England Yellow Pages, back when they had Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand how powerful the Yellow Pages were back in our day.
They were powerful.
Like if you need an electrician, a plumber, a lawyer, the only place you turn to. Yeah. So I didn't even know you could sell. Like obviously the phone book's free, but the advertising in it is not. You got to pay big money to be in there. So I interviewed. I got a job making $9,900 with the opportunity to hit target of 23,000. And I thought, Mike, honestly, I thought I hit the lotto.
I made it. Yeah.
If I could bring in, my rent was $133 a month. My car payment was $200 a month. I mean, that was it. The rest was just beer and food. I mean, if I could bring in $1,500 a month or something like that, oh my God. Like I honestly thought I would just be a millionaire. Mm-hmm. So I was in that telephone sales job for a couple of years. And here's another lesson I learned: always raise your hand. Always raise your hand. Volunteer for everything. Doesn't matter if you're ready. You're never going to be ready, by the way. Just yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. So they said, hey, we have an opening up in upstate New York for an outside sales rep. Target 60,000. I'll do it. They're like, yeah, it's in Siberia though, dude. I mean, it's Plattsburgh, Ticonderoga, Watertown, where our Fort Drum Army base is up there. Mm-hmm. Like the winters, nobody knows the winters until you get up to that part. It's right next to Vermont on the one side where Plattsburgh is. I said, I don't care. So packed up, moved up there for the winter of 92 into the summer of 93. And then they brought me back to Buffalo. I had kind of served my time out in Siberia. And then I really started making good money. For me, good money. I was making 70, 75 grand, 80 grand. And I'm driving an Infiniti now. I mean, I got the whole single life going. Mm-hmm. And
we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out Calendly.com/Rio760.